any given day, one house trades for X price and then a similar house trades for Y. And we're like, what happened? Different players, different teams, different environments, even if it was only a week apart.
Welcome back to Life at 10/10, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I got Matt Bonelli with me today. My name is Garrett Fry, and you are with Life at 10/10. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have some fun. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, go check it out there. It doesn't cost anything, and it supports us in a tremendous way. Go click on the subscribe button. If you find any videos on there you like, hit the like button. If you want to leave comments, please leave comments. We love them. You can comment on any platform that you're on. But let's get this episode underway, Matt. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, man. Excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today because it's very, very relevant to the market environment that we're all experiencing. And I know that for many listeners, Garrett, this is going to be a little bit of a unlock in their mindset, a little bit of a shift of like, okay, that's how I can approach this, which is going to hopefully help you if you're stuck at a plateau or if you feel like, oh, this market is making me whatever. This is going to pull you out of that and put you back into growth mode, which is where you should be.
Yeah, and this came out of our coaching calls because one of the items of value that I feel that people lean into me on a lot is what are you seeing out there in the United States? What's happening in the real estate markets out here? What is going on? Are we seeing more listings, or how are people handling listings right now? Are we seeing more buyers, and how are people handling buyers right now? Are those buyers being successful? Are the listings being successful? Like all these questions, every coaching call, Matt, people jump, one at a time, because I do a lot of one-on-one coaching also. They're like, what are you seeing right now? And they want those insights. And I kept trying to come up with an analogy that would help them understand like what I'm seeing going on out here right now. And what came up for me, which then as we started talking, went down all these paths, like it just started like branching off into all these areas, was I've been telling people both teams are on the field. Both teams are on the field. Let's just start off with that right there. And I've had some people that are like, oh, that makes total sense. And I've had people go, I have no idea what you're talking about. So let's expand on this a little bit more. When I say both teams are on the field, the buyer team is on the field and the seller team is on the field, and they want to play. They want to play the game. They want to work together here. And if the situation is right, we're seeing a lot of deals come together. I'm seeing a lot. And just think of when deals come together, that is the teams on the field actually playing the game together. There are times in marketplaces where all the selling team is on the field. They're like, we're here. And there's no buyers to be found. That team has not, the bus is still driving down the freeway. It has not arrived at the game yet. This can happen. And vice versa, it can happen the other way, where all of a sudden all the buyers are there and they're going, where's the inventory? Wait, we just want something to be able to buy. What if and the problem, that's the selling, the listing team is still on the bus. They're still actually down the road. They haven't arrived at the field yet. Guys, let's just start everything off right now with both teams are on the field. They're here. They want to play. We need to help them understand the game that's going on the field right now so that they can be successful. And Matt, this is where we had a fun conversation that started to branch off in all these different directions and led us to where we're at right now.
Yeah, it was one of those chats that it was like, okay, let's just get into the podcast and start talking and see where this evolves, because if you're still a little stuck on this analogy and like, well, yeah, but you need both teams because buyers and sellers, think about it more or less of like what the marketplace looks like and how you as a strategist for your client can look at the marketplace. Because when you have a marketplace that's dominated by one side, whether, in a seller's market, the seller's just standing on the sidelines, right? They're on the bus and we're like, yeah, we're not going to show up. We're going to just let the buyers play their game and come to us so we win. Like it's a weird, like we didn't show up, but they forfeit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or vice versa the other way around, where now is you have both teams on the field playing and they both need strategy, right? Even if it's a slightly seller's market, which is most marketplaces still, by the way.
Yep.
Or even if it's a slightly buyer's market. both teams want to come to a result. And if you're stuck in just figuring out how do we break through to win in this game that only we're playing and we have to play against ourselves to win, versus, hey, we're playing against the other side now. And we need to understand their perspective and understand what strategies are they running so that we can run our strategy. And ultimately, think about this from a co-opetition perspective, Garrett, right? Like almost like a junior league of, at the end of the day, someone is going to quote win, but we want everybody to leave the field having had fun, meaning that everybody feel like they got something away from it, because that's truly the game in real estate. This is a win-win scenario that we're trying to create, and we have the environment to do that now. But if you're still playing that, I just got to do whatever it takes and just, pound down the other side or figure out what we can do, you may end up not winning, which would be unfortunate.
And this is why it's really important. We've talked about it in past episodes, like know your numbers, know what's going on, know how this is changing. Because your job, Matt, you said it when we were kind of talking before, is like, it's kind of like being a defensive coordinator or being that coach on the sideline that's kind of going, okay, we're watching how the game is changing right now. They just brought in a certain player. They just brought in special teams. They just brought in this. Like, we need to be analyzing what game is being played out here right now, because they may have realized our strategy. They may have said, we see what your strategy is right now. You guys are starting to make lowball offers out here. We're not playing that game. Like, sorry, we're just not going to do it. You make a lowball offer, get out of here. Go away. We're not even going to play the game with you right now. Strategies are changing all the time. And us as the professionals that are there to understand what's going on, that's in this game every single day, we need to be guiding and coaching these guys to be able to make smart decisions out here. And so when I say know your numbers and know the game, if you look at most markets right now, I don't have any marketplace that I'm currently have my hands in, people that I'm coaching, that they're like, nothing's happening. It's just dead. I'm not seeing that.
The marketplace never exists.
It never exists.
Let's be honest here. There's closings and pendings that happen all over the place. There's never a screeching halt.
I've seen times where they're like, it's a little quieter. I feel like things have just kind of settled down here for a second, but there's always typically a market. But it was interesting because you said most areas are still a seller's market. And I think what is important as you look at the numbers in your marketplace, figure out, because there's definitely some thresholds of price ranges right now that are acting different than other price ranges. And where you'll find a lower price range always that's hot, very, very, very much a seller's market. I was talking to Dave Pepin yesterday, who's my gentleman I've coached in Sioux City forever, hoping we're going to interview him coming up. He's like 300 to 600 in Sioux City right now, is like just pulled the handbrake. Like it's just sitting super quiet, and you get a little bit above that 600 and all of a sudden it all picks back up again. In that, again, they don't have a ton more of 600, but he said those are cash buyers. Mm-hmm. Says the 300 to 600, these are the getting traditional loans. They're a little bit slowed down right now, and then we got this lower part that's just cranking. This is the information you need to know. So when you sit down with your team and go, how are we going to be successful out here right now? Well, here's the different games that are being played. And again, going back to where we started this, the good thing about all these different games that we're going to try to negotiate is we at least have both teams on the field. The buyers are here and the sellers are here. They're here to play, but we do need to understand the strategy of how we're going to help them be successful.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like people were thinking this way back in 23, as interest rates were really climbing. We were like, okay, how do we really, make sure that we look at strategy overall? Then we kind of forgot about that. I was having a conversation with an agent earlier this week, and we were talking about this one property that's not moving and like what can be done. And it's positioned well. Like we looked at all the things. It's in the right place in line. And it's like, well, what's going on in that segment? And you kind of brought it up with that price range that Dave was seeing there too. It's like, well, people are really sensitive to monthly payment in that segment. I was like, okay, well, so what's going on with the things that we can't control? What's the field? What's the playing field look like? What's the weather like on the field? Look at it that way. So that we can't control. It's like, okay, interest rates climbed again, right? Inventory is where it needs to be. All this is where it needs to be. It's just really that inventory, that interest rate and HOA fees, things that we can't control that are making it really tough weather for people to, let's say, run the ball because the field's wet, right? It's like, okay, well, what if on the seller side, we look at a way to open up the secondary a little bit, right? So that they can pass the ball. And then maybe we get a chance at an interception if we push them into a passing game, even though it's wet out there. It's like, well, what could we do? How about we offer some form of credit, maybe rate buy down, something that would make the monthly payment easier for a buyer, which also then kind of takes the price sting away from a reduction on the seller side. And now we are starting to play ball together. And that's just one little scenario, right? And people were looking at those, Garrett, a few years ago, but you have to zoom out, and you said know the numbers. You have to know the numbers of the marketplace. You have to really put your thinking hat on and think like a buyer or a seller, depending on which side you're on, and say, what are some other things that could be impacting this? And this is where local news reports, economic trends, and all that stuff come into play. And also just talking to your people to understand what are they going through.
Well, where you're going with this right now, which I love, is down this path of like what are they dealing with right now? Now you may look at a team. We're just going to continue to talk in heavy analogies, so just bear with us. But you look at a team and you go, okay, I know that their star player is missing right now. I know that that is either a weakness or a strength of ours that we need to play into and see if we can help get the ball down the field. Now, I love this idea because yes, we haven't heard about this for a while, but it's everybody's looking at this right now. Go, well, what do we do? Just reduce the price? I mean, I don't want to just tell my people all the time to reduce the price. Well, what if you took that what would be price reduction and say, look, let's use it in the form of something else to fix the problem that the buyers are dealing with right now that's not allowing them to move forward on this. And I think that's where we need to get creative. We need to take a step back and look at this from a different angle and go, okay, maybe it's not just a price reduction. And I've said all the time, I mean, there is a place you can always get a home to sell by reducing the price. At some point, somebody, the realtor themselves, is going to go, oh, I'll buy it at that price. That's a deal. I can make money. I can flip that thing and make money on it. There's always a place that people will see it in that light. But we don't need to go there when you understand the team that you're playing against and what they're dealing with right now. And I think, as we just said a second ago, it's like every price range is potentially different. You've got to know what's going on. You can't just sit back and assume that the entire marketplace is playing the same game. And I think it's actually one of the huge strengths. All of you out there that's listening that are professionals in this industry that are doing a fair amount of transactions, that have your hands in a lot of transactions, you need to use this as your strength of being able to help people understand why you understand the game. Because I was out here playing it yesterday, I played it the day before, and I played it the day before that. The agent that's playing one game a month, or let's just say one game a year, like they are missing out on the day-to-day nuances of what do we do, how do we handle this situation, because the game that they played 6 months ago is a totally different game than what's going on right now. And there's value in you being on the field.
Yeah, there's huge value. I mean, there's the saying in football, right? Any given Sunday, any team could win. Right. Mm-hmm. And if it was that this team always wins with this play, then you wouldn't have that phrase. But the reason why that exists is because little changes in conditions, little changes in team structure, or how you view the field, or what the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator is cooking up can make all the difference. And that applies into real estate because every little piece of real estate is different and every marketplace is different as well. So any given day, one house trades for X price and then a similar house trades for Y. And we're like, what happened? Different players, different teams, different environments, even if it was only a week apart. Gosh, I've seen it happen on my street, right? And that's where, if you're not looking at the overall strategy day to day, and by the way, this also means that sometimes your conversations with clients might result in the same conversation you had last week. Yep. And ultimately, the client's going to be the one making decision. Your position there is to help give them all the information, help them talk through it, talk about strategy. Here are some options for us that we can go down, some paths we can try, because maybe they don't want to do the credit. Maybe they want to do the price reduction. Maybe they don't want to do the price reduction. Maybe they're willing to do the staging. Maybe they're not willing to do anything at all.
Maybe they're just like, no.
Yeah, but at least you're showing them all of the options out there. And I think that the reason why a lot of realtors, Garrett, get stressed in marketplaces like this is because they know in the back of their head there's probably something else that they could suggest or discuss, and they're just not quite sure what it is. But if you explore all the options and the seller doesn't choose to do something that'll help move their property, like, hands off, be comfortable. It's okay.
Well, and I think that, okay, so going down to the stress side of the real estate agent, I think a lot of times is that you list a property, we've given them every bit of hope that this thing's going to sell. Like, it's going to sell. We got it staged right. We got the photo. I had the professional photography done, like I told you I would do. We got all these pieces, and now we're a week in. Now we're 2 weeks in, and this is where the stress levels start to come up. And I think, knowing a changing marketplace, knowing an adjusting marketplace, or like one that we're in right now, it's a safe conversation to say, guys, both teams are on the field. We know that right now. We're watching this in all these deals that are going on. Both teams are on the field. We do need to listen, though, and I'm going to explain what's happening here as we go on. We talk about this with our customer service calls, Matt, and using our gear analogy, or gear, not analogy, gear.
Framework.
Yeah, framework. There's another word that's not coming to my mind right now. And so when you look at this and you say, okay, well, again, what's the goal, but also what's the environment? How has the environment changed right now? And one of my favorite sayings is we're gonna put your home on the market, and we need to listen. We need to listen. This is like defensive strategists, like standing on the field. They're watching, they're taking notes, and they're going, okay, the other team is going to tell us everything we need to know. We're going to run a play, and we're going to watch how that team handles us. And we're going to be like, okay, that was either successful and we're going to try that again, or we're going to change up our strategy a little bit here, because we could run that play over and over and over and over again and get our butts handed to us, or we can take a little bit of a different strategy, which goes back to what you were saying a second ago of like, what if we did a rate buy down? What if we helped alleviate some of that mortgage stress? This all of a sudden creates a winning game scenario now. And by the way, winning in this is both teams winning.
Oh, yeah.
Both teams coming in. This is not the sellers getting one over on the buyers or the buyers getting one over and like touchdown. Like, this is the ability of being able to engage in the gameplay. That's what we want.
Yeah. Ultimately, everybody wants a deal to come together. And this works on the buy side too. It's like, okay, what's the environment look like, and what are sellers looking for? And everybody just
100%.
assumes that sellers want price, or they want this. And yeah, price is the biggest lever that's out there, because it's also the easiest thing to move, because we can literally move it back and forth just with our words. Hey, we offer this. Well, we're going to counter with this, and then you counter with that. But if you figure out, and if you have a marketplace that has slowed down a little bit, we'll say, you have the time now to engage the listing agent, to talk about what is the seller really looking for, because maybe price is not going to be the end all be all, or maybe it is, but you can get back some opportunity in the other terms. And so when you look at what the sellers are doing out there in the field, which I know for many of you listening, they're like, yeah, we have listings that are sitting and all that stuff. It's like, great opportunity. Those are sellers that have, for the past few years, seen things fly off the shelf, and they're going, what's going on? This is your opportunity to come in with some good strategy, not low balls, because I've been hearing sellers just hard reject those, right? Which, again, I'm always of the, like, tennis, right? Hit the ball back over the net. But a lot of sellers aren't there mentally. It's like, okay, if we know they're not there mentally, what's going to be our offer strategy then to make sure our buyers get a good deal, sellers are happy, buyers are happy, and we're able to move on with a great deal and transaction where everybody feels safe and feels like they won.
Yeah, this you talked about the lowball offers here, and this was another piece that came out of this analogy that was funny. We were on a coaching call, and my client that I was working with I was like, I'm hanging up and I'm calling my person right now, because we're trying to make an offer. And it's funny, the client is saying out loud, what should I offer? What would be a good offer that'll potentially get me this home? And he goes, you probably should offer X. And the Client goes, perfect. Let's offer X minus 25,000. And he's like, wait, that's not what I said. Like, and he's like, yeah, I know, but this is what I want to offer. And it's like, you do realize that hasn't worked on the last, I think it was like 5 offers they had written. That's the same strategy. What should I offer? X minus 25,000. That's what we're actually going to write this thing up for. And I think that play, after we kind of use this analogy and we talked it through, he's like, that's it. I'm going to basically go back, say both teams are on the field, and this gameplay that we're playing over and over and over again isn't working during this game. It's not going to work in this game that is available on the field right now. We need to change up our strategy, or we need to go sit on the bench for a little bit and just kind of take it easy. This is going to wear out the team. This is going to wear out the agent. It's going to wear out the client. Like at some point here, we're going to be, this isn't fun anymore. What are we doing?
You mentioned something important there too, which is, the buyer comes back and says, I want to do X. And listen, it is their decision, but if we're getting the same, if they're running the ball every single time and they keep hitting a brick wall, they're like, let's run the ball again. It's like, first of all, your job as the agent is you're a broker. You're trying to bring everybody together. You're a strategist. You're trying to help them get to their goal. And you got to say, hey, okay, what are we actually trying to do? Like, is your highest and best list price minus 25,000? Is that really the highest we'll go? It's like, no, it's just where I want to start. Okay, what's our goal? Well, our goal is to get to here. Great. Here's a couple of pathways that might help us get there. Instead of running the ball up the middle, why don't we try an option, right?
Yep.
Which it still allows you to potentially run, but you also have the option to throw. And now we kind of get the best of both worlds with that play. If we get a little bit of distance, and then now we're kind of talking to each other, we're moving and grooving, we're getting closer to that goal versus just getting stopped, or, worst, losing yardage because they're just saying no right off the bat.
Well, and if you're preparing them up front enough, if you're giving them enough information, as you said, options of how we're going to play this game, what you're left with now is a buyer and seller. Hopefully the other side's been somewhat coached the same way, where instead of it being blown out of the water, we have some different, because we want to create communication. That's what we want. In every deal I've ever been in, the talking back and forth up front means nothing. The whole thing is we need to get an offer on the table. The minute we have something as a real offer on the table, now we can work together on it. But if we're just taking that offer and it's going in and being blasted out without having someone say, I want to work with you on this we need to fix. Because again, when we got, both teams on the field, we need to get the communication back and forth. We at least need to present an offer that they're going to be like, there, we're close. This isn't going to work. But what if we change this? What if we adjusted this? And the minute that game comes into play, oh my gosh, like that's the moment. That's where you're like, okay, we could potentially make something come together. I've told everybody I used to sell cars back in the day, and that was the place that you're always trying to get to, is are we in a place that we can now have paperwork going from the back office back up to the salesperson's office, where we are potentially, this might go on, everybody who's bought a car, this can go on for hours sometimes in a dealership. But that moment that they're willing to send something back to the back office, that's the moment that my back office will even go like, oh, I'll talk with you. Because if I'm just coming back and going like, well, they say they might do, I don't know. They're like, get out of here. Go away until you have something solid that we can work with here. This is the same thing in this place right now. We're trying to get a buyer who wants to buy and a seller who wants to sell into a place where they'll say, hey, do you think they'll take this? And the minute you have that moment, you don't want to take that lightly on both sides, even if it's an extreme low ball that comes in. You need to coach your seller to be like, that is a buyer right now. Like if you were to take that right now, your home is sold, you're moving on. Is it what you want? Absolutely not. But don't disgrace a real buyer that has actually made a real offer to purchase your property. Let's see if we can put this together and at least throw an offer back and see if we can work with them. But they're saying they want to play. They're on the field going, play, let's play. I want to play. Here's something.
And this is where I think you can also add in the element of making sure that you also analyze the field or analyze the position from the other party's side, right? And I've been talking with a lot of my clients about this. Like, if your listing is stuck, go on Zillow and search as if you were a buyer in that range of where your listing may fall. Like, go look at your stats, look at the view count, look at the saves, look at that on the competitive listings and everything, because the buyers are out there doing those things, right? And you want to look at it from there. It's like, okay, and this is how we arrived with this one conversation where, like, based on how a buyer would be kind of approaching this, like, we're in a really good position. They're just stuck across this segment right now, probably because of that monthly, price tag, right? Not the monthly payment, not the actual overall price tag. And once you start looking at that, you'll start to see, oh, maybe we think this property is well positioned. We think it's presented well. But when we look at our properties getting half the number of views as all of these other properties, well, why are those properties getting views? Is it a price? Is it the way the photos are arranged? Is it a description? Is it a location that, maybe we thought our location was better, but maybe it's not compared to how the buyers are clicking around this place right now? Now, I know that things like that aren't giving you like the 100% accurate information of actual buyers that are moving to contract, but it's going to give you more data to allow you to see everything. And that's the most important thing to have so that you can build a strategy. And if it's not good data, you can dismiss it. But if it is good data, bring it in.
So prime example about knowing the data and sitting down with this. And I can't give too much information about this because it's actively kind of working right now for one of my clients. But it is a expensive property. It was on the market. I think it hit the market for 12. I think it was 12.9 is what it was we hit the marketplace for, 12.9 million. What's interesting with this property is it is a split lot. And so they were trying to sell it as a combined lot, basically saying 12.9 million. Here's what we're selling here. Well, they put it on the market and absolute ghost town. Now, obviously it's a high price. But there was just not much going on. They were watching some other things kind of in town, what was going on, gathering data. She came back and said, you know what? We need to get this thing down below this price point. Like, we have to get below 10. And this marketplace will accept that. It's a higher end market. What was interesting, and this is the approach she brought to her clients right now, is saying, let's split these two lots up. We have this lot that we're going to sell for this amount over here. We're going to take this main lot. We're going to get it down to this price point, which actually made sense for the land and everything like that. But it moved that home into a price point that was actually getting traction and things were happening in. Because the minute we were talking about it, she was on the phone going with her. We had her assistant on the coaching call also. She's like, you need to call this agent, find out how many showings are having on that one property, because that's going to be our direct competition. They're actively gathering that data to go back to the client and be like, we have a plan. We're gonna play the game differently right now. I know she's already talked to the client. The client was like, brilliant. We're still going to potentially get what we want for this property. It's just going to happen in a little bit of a different way, because the goal now is to bring that property down and then say, oh, if you want to have this other property over here that gives all these other things to this property, this is what you could combine this for if you want to buy it this way.
Nice little upsell. Think about every time you go online and you check out, at the end, they're like, would you like to add this to your cart? It's like, would you like to add this other piece of land to your cart? Yes, I would. Thank you very much.
And again, if you're in that type of price point, like all of a sudden it's like, okay, so yes, is it more than what we were initially thinking? But look what it adds onto the property. Look what it potentially does. That is the strategic gameplay that we need to be looking at these markets with right now. And the reason it's so important is because it's not that we don't have buyers and we're trying to figure out how we sell a property. It's not that we don't have sellers and we're trying to figure out how to buy a property. They're both here. And I want everybody to hear this out here, because we've said it over and over and over again. The players are on the field. We need to be the strategist to help these people come together and to say, okay, yes, there's room for success here right now. We're watching people, Matt, right now had the biggest months they've ever had in their businesses.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, across in many, many markets. I mean, I know a lot of you are like, man, it's slow. Like, I have agents that are having their best year ever so far.
We just
Have
we just
agents
talked about it. Two people. I have one that's having a $200,000 month. You have one that's having a $200,000 month. These
completely
months,
different markets.
totally different markets.
And I have another, I mean, it's the opportunity is there. And this is where to be a good strategist, and this is a whole nother topic that we're not going to go down the path of today, but you have to reduce your stress and keep your mind clear, right? Because if you're letting the environment stress you out, what do you think it's doing to your client? And you might get the feedback of like, well, everything's okay. It's just the way it is. And I get that. However, you're listening to this because you want to be better than average, right? You want to be a better than average service provider to your clients. You want to help them beat the market averages. Well, thinking like a strategist is going to help you do that. And this is the other thing. It doesn't mean that every single strategy that you look at and analyze is going to work. It doesn't give you all the information. Nothing is foolproof. There will be times where you'll be like, we're going to try this strategy and it doesn't work. And that's okay, because sometimes markets are hard to read. We set up the best defense in the world, but somehow that Hail Mary got through. Like, how did that happen? We had the best punt coverage, but that guy broke 3 tackles and scored a touchdown. How did that happen? Sometimes it happens. And so you have to be comfortable as well with having uncertain results while being confident in the strategy that you're putting out there and being willing to do it again.
So you're right. This is a whole deeper podcast that we need to expand even more onto, because we've all watched a game where the coaches start to fall apart on the sidelines. And when the coaches fall apart, the entire team falls apart. Every single time. You can see them come apart. All it takes is a clipboard. You can envision the coach right now taking the clipboard and just slamming it on the ground, ripping the headset off, and you're like, oh, they're coming apart. Like they've lost their sense of calm and how they're focusing on this game. And you watch a coach who usually will make a huge comeback, like a huge comeback where you're like, this game is over. They've lost it. It's not going to happen. And you watch that coach on the sideline and they're they're in the zone, they're focused, they're still analyzing, they're looking at everything. How are we going to approach this differently? What's a new strategy? And all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, they're making a comeback. They're making a comeback. Like, how are they doing this? It's like, well, the coach and the strategist on the sidelines kept their cool. They didn't lose their minds. They didn't get out of control here. And I am watching some agents right now that are trying to figure out this marketplace. They're trying to figure out, how do I make these teams work together so we can be successful? And some of them are losing their cool.
Yeah.
Some of them are losing their ability of being able to think cool under stress, be able to make good decisions under stress right now, because they're fully stressed out. That stuff we need to be paying attention to.
Yeah. You got to pay attention. And I think if you focus on the strategy to help you stay out of that, destructive mindset. And at the same time, we've seen coaches keep their cool, teams maybe starting to make a comeback, and they don't overcome the challenges. And that's okay too, because you're still in real estate, it's the never ending game, right? And you also still have your clients who are ultimately in control of the decision. So as long as you keep your cool, you propose strategies, we see what works. If everybody's on board together, you're going to look at it at the end of the day and be like, okay, cool. We just got to figure out, how do we adjust it at this point here? How do we, and sometimes the seller or buyer's goal might adjust based on how the game adjusts. And I've heard that from a couple of clients too. Sellers decide, you know what? In this market, I'm not going to sell. I'm just going to stay. I talked to a buddy of mine just the other day who he had his house on the market for almost 2 years. And he decided, you know what, if that's where we got to go to sell this house, like, I'm good staying here, because his goal was something a lot bigger of what he was going to do. And he's like, I don't want to give up, the lifestyle and the things that we have here to go do that. So like, we'll ride it out another 3 or 4 years. Like, we're happy. We're good. Cool. His goal adjusted. No harm, no foul, right? The game goes on. So, man, Garrett, this is a good topic, man. Both teams are on the field. Be a strategist. That is the big thing I want people to take away from this is think of yourself as a strategist, not just we're going to go do this or go do this without looking at all the data. Look at it all, come up with a strategy.
I'm going to say this in a way that if you are just bringing the teams to the field, you're the bus driver. Don't be the bus driver.
And don't be the
coach.
water boy either, who you're just like, yep, hey, get back out there. Here's some, here's rehydrate and
That's awesome.
get back out there,
We should like basically create like a spreadsheet map where it's like, okay, which one are you right now with your clients? And like one of them should totally be a picture of the water boy. Like a little like, it's like all I'm doing is going out there going, okay, you got this, spraying some water in their mouth, going, get back out in the game. Or like, are you really truly helping them strategize of what's going on? I got a great picture in my mind. We'll have to circle back around to that one too.
Well, if you guys got a fun picture in your mind of that too, we'd love to hear what you're thinking about. Where are you in this? Or what is your biggest takeaway from this conversation? If you're watching on YouTube, drop it in the comments below. Share what you're taking away from this, because it's not what is taught, what is heard. It's what's caught and received and deployed. So make sure that you're going and doing that. It'll help you actually obtain, analyze, and use this information to your benefit. So if you're listening on the audio platform, you can go over to YouTube. You can also download our app or join our community. And we have a little podcast section that's free where you can comment on our podcast, see expanded show notes, and also engage with us personally through there too. So go to lifeat10tenths.com for that information. And then if you want to go even further, if you'd love to join our community in a official fashion and step up to our starter membership, where we have all of our mindset stuff, daily prompts to help you win the day, win the week, and also just get better organized from a mindset and personal development perspective, or jump right into our group coaching program, the 11 Circle, where we coach every single week, an incredible group of people, and we bring in guests to run success labs. So you're learning from more than just Garrett and myself in there. You're learning from the community, you're learning from the experts that we bring in, and we hold you accountable in there too. So you can join the 11 Circle also at our website. And you can also just keep tuning into this podcast, man. We appreciate you guys so much. I love hearing the feedback from y'all out there when you're saying like, I was listening to this. I'll call people and be like, that's crazy you're talking to me. I was just listening to you on the podcast. It's like one of the weirdest things, but also one of the coolest things that can happen. So we appreciate you guys. Make sure you share. And if you do share the podcast, you're going to like take a screenshot, put it on Instagram or something. Give us a tag. Tag me, Matthew J. Benelli. Tag at Life at 10 Tenths. Tag Garrett _ Life at 10. And we would love to see where you guys are listening, tuning in, and what you're taking away and how you're sharing it out there. So really appreciate you guys. Garrett, appreciate you too, my friend.
This is great, man. Appreciate the chatter, the conversation, and thank you everybody who tunes in and pays attention to the podcast. We love you guys, and thank you, and we'll be back.
Take care, guys.